It's here. Shout out the postseason, baby. Game one of the wild card. All 4 wild card games in action today. They start at what? They start at noon, and then they go through probably 11:30 p.m., depending on when Padres-Mets wraps up. Jack, Peter, Aram, here's our goal. All 3 of us are going to want to get on pretty much every episode throughout this entire postseason, throughout the whole month. And as we get into the first couple of days of November, if schedules don't allow, then you'll get any assortment of the 2 of us. But this is the first of us trying to be on every episode this month. And it starts with some ace-offs, which is going to be absolutely phenomenal, and some stuff mixed in between there. We also just dropped Just Baseball's All-MiLB Team. First time we did that, myself, Aram, and one of the new writers, Christian Crespo, kind of joined heads on that and brought it to light. So I know Peter was fascinated by it, so he wants to grill us about that. Happy postseason, everybody. Is there a better way to get going than Shane McClanahan and Shane Bieber in Cleveland?
Not even a little bit. I'm so excited for the Guardians Rays. Like, this is one of the most interesting series that we have, I think, over the entire playoffs. But no, there is no better way to get started than Shane Bieber than Shane McClanahan. I'm just excited to talk about all the games, Aram.
Yeah, we also kind of got a little bit more clarity on what some of these postseason rotations may look like. So that's going to be fun to break down. I know even just yesterday's episode alone, we were speculating on some of them. So it's cool to see some of that there. And Tyler Glass now looks like he's going to get the start. So that should be interesting as we talk about some of the other matchups. But focusing just on most of the game ones, I love wild card day, I guess, because it's just games the whole freaking day from 12 to 8. And I do feel bad for, people that do have jobs that they cannot sneak away and watch that. And that's the tough part about this whole thing. But we will be breaking it all down if you do miss the game to hit on all the important things that you may have missed.
Yeah, big problem is we get going at noon, and then you got first pitch at noon, 2, 4, and 8. Shouldn't it be like 1, 4, 6, and 9?
Should be like 3, 5, 7, and 9.
Yeah, something like that. The noon first pitch is going to be weird, but it feels a lot like the first round of the NCAA tournament where, it's kind of you're at school or you're at work.
Yeah.
But you're mostly not really at school or at work. The amount of times that I saw people with the NCAA tournament queued up on their laptop during college classes was just through the roof. So,
that was high school. That was my MO.
Yeah, that was everybody's MO. But we'll start with the All-MiLB team. And Peter, you run point on this one because Aram and I with Christian put this thing together. We had a blast putting it together. And I think our big takeaway was there is just an insane amount of talent not in Major League Baseball right now. And there are some guys that had utterly insane seasons that we wanted to highlight. First, second, third team. We did every position, including 3 outfielders. We did a DH, and we did 5 pitchers per team as well. So 15 total pitchers.
I'm down to go through it. I love doing this with you guys because, like I said, it's harder to find 2 better people to talk about the minor leagues with, and I'm always trying to be my Chris Paul. I was compared to Ricky Rubio in the last episode. I think that was blatant disrespect. I'd almost compare myself to like a John Stockton with my assisting. So we'll go with that.
White guy. Perfect.
Honestly, scrawny white guy. So I want to start especially because if on YouTube we're trying out something new, let us know in the comments where you like this a little bit more visually appealing, to all those visual learners out there. I personally am a visual learner. I like it in front of me or else it gets too difficult for me. So for all those on YouTube, leave us with a comment. Let us know what you're enjoying about this. And on audio, get over to YouTube. Why not? Why not us? First team. Catcher, Endy Rodriguez for the Pittsburgh Pirates. So this was the Just Baseball minor league player of the year on the offensive side. We've talked about Endy Rodriguez at length at this point. You could see it right there, the kind of year that he had. He had over 300. He slugged almost 600, had plenty of extra base hits. I want to know more about who was considered in this because we've talked already at length about Endy Rodriguez. Like, Aram, who else was considered?
Yeah, Logan O'Hoppe had a pretty good case in this thing. Logan O'Hoppe of the LA Angels was traded over from the Philadelphia Phillies for Brandon Marsh. And that was somebody that every aspect of the game, he was phenomenal. He hit really well. He's always been a good bat to ball guy, tapped into more power. He's a great defender. I think he's one of the most well-rounded, if not the most well-rounded catcher in the minor leagues. And number 26 in our top 100 for good reason. O'Hoppe was very much considered here, but ultimately when you are the minor league player of the year offensively, that guy's going to end up taking the catcher spot. But if anybody other than Endy, was there, I think O'Hoppe easily, could have been that first team catcher.
Jack, I know that Aram kind of was on the Endy Rodriguez is the minor league hitter of the year. Were you on that same breath? It's hard not to be.
Yeah, he was an Indianapolis Indian, so I'm gonna have bias there. Endy was a freak, dude. He had a 997 OPS, which was just utterly insane. And he's a great defensive catcher too. So our second team guy was Logan O'Hoppe. I figure we could probably work like position by position, right? And give you first, second, third team at each position, because you got Endy as the first teamer. You got Logan O'Hoppe as the second teamer. And then our third team catcher was Bo Naylor, who I know that, you started to dive a little bit more into, Peter, but Naylor was also utterly phenomenal this year. I mean, 3 fantastic catchers. Rodriguez did not get up. He should get up a couple months into next season, but Logan O'Hoppe and Bo Naylor made very late debuts, and they're going to be probably the starting catcher for the Angels and the Guardians, respectively, opening day next year.
And it kind of makes sense that the Guardians didn't go after a guy like Sean Murphy at the trade deadline. I mean, when you look at the Guardians as a whole, they usually don't like to spend, and they don't like to trade any of their big guys, especially when you have a catcher like Bo Naylor sitting in the minor leagues who already made his debut with the Guardians. Do you guys think we're going to see Bo Naylor in the playoffs? I know the rosters have come out. I don't think he was on it, but he's definitely going to be a piece for next year for the Guardians. He's not on it, right? No.
I wish we would have saw him. I wish. I was surprised they didn't call him up sooner. I think they wanted to, reinforce some of the swing adjustments that he's made, because he really did make some major swing adjustments this year that have really helped him. Ultimately, he's going to be the starting catcher for them next year. I'm sure Austin Hedges has his role. He's never going to not catch, just because he's basically Jeff Mathis now. But Bo Naylor is the guy that rakes for them. He can catch too. He had 20 stolen bases also. I mean, this is one of the most athletic catchers you're going to find. I mean, just look at the stat line across: 263, 392, 496, 21 homers, 20 stolen bases. You don't see very many catchers go 20-20. JT Realmuto just did it in the big leagues for the first time since Pudge Rodriguez in 1999, I believe. And Bo Naylor just did it in the minor leagues. Pretty darn impressive.
And he was so good defensively in that short little stint too. Looked really mature for his age. Let's move over to first base as our YouTube screen does a little bit of
weird.
That was crazy.
That was crazy.
First base, with all due respect to Alfonso Rivas and Frank Schwindel, why wasn't Matt Mervis called up at the end of the season in order to play first base for the Chicago Cubs? Give him that opportunity to play, because it was harder to find a better hitter in the minor leagues than Matt Mervis. When you look at this number, which Aram is pulling up now, Aram, it's hard to find maybe a better hitter than Endy Rodriguez was, but Matt Mervis certainly came close. The dude hit almost 40 jacks and hit over 300 while slugging 600. Matt Mervis had to be in consideration for minor league hitter of the year.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And really, the only reason why he didn't was, I think, the fact that Endy Rodriguez was able to do a little bit of everything in terms of, getting on base. The average was slightly higher. And but you look at what Matt Mervis did, just being able to climb 3 levels, 36 pumps, as you mentioned, but also got better at every level, which was a really amazing part. In high A, he struck out mid 20% range, didn't walk much. Double A, strikeouts kind of dropped to the low 20%, walk rate rises. By triple A, his strikeout rate was sub 15%, and he's walking more than 10% of the time, all while mashing the ball at every single stop. Led the minor leagues with 78 extra base hits. The only reason we didn't see him in the big leagues is the Cubs were out of contention, and they have a 40-man roster crunch. Matt Mervis is not Rule 5 eligible until next year. So they said, hey, we're not going to self-impose an even further 40-man crunch. And they did not bring up Matt Mervis. Very unfortunate, because he earned it. 40 doubles, 36 homers, 18% K rate, and he drove in 119. Like, that's one of the best minor league seasons we've seen in a while. This guy was undrafted in 2020 shortened draft.
Yeah. Jack, Do you know why Alfonso Rivas seemed to be the answer at the end of the year over Matt Mervis? Do you have any idea?
Yeah, it's because Matt Mervis's clock has not started yet.
Oh, okay.
So, that's kind of all I'll say on that front. Kyle Manzardo is our second team first baseman, and Hunter Goodman was our third team first baseman. Name that probably not a lot of people know is Hunter Goodman. Manzardo is somebody that Aram has sung his praises for. Tampa Bay Rays first base prospect. He was a Wazoo guy, drafted in the second round last year out of Washington State, and just killed the ball in high A and double A. And then Hunter Goodman was a guy that just kind of snuck by everybody. He was a COVID-shortened draft pick, I want to say. Or no, he might have been last year at the University of Memphis for the Rockies. Yep. And, with all the appeal of Veen and Tovar and even a guy like Amador and a guy like Gabriel Hughes and how about Warming Bernabel, Hunter Goodman had an 100 RBI season, which was phenomenal.
Absolutely.
Second base, as the ultimate point guard, it's my job to throw it over to you guys. And the way I'm going to throw it over to Aram first is, who the hell is that? Never heard of him before in my life. I think it's a good way to kind of throw it over to you. Yeah. I don't even want to try and pronounce that first name. I assume the last name is Julian with the Minnesota Twins, and you look at the numbers, they speak for himself. But I think first on the docket is, who is that?
Edouard Julien is
I even got the last name wrong. Great.
He's a certified masher. The guy, was overlooked. I talk a lot about prospects who get overlooked because they have defensive limitations. This is your classic example of that. But he just rakes. He raked on the Cape when we saw him, and he just continues to rake. And the Twins found another good bat here. They've done a good job in recent years. The Twins have finding these kind of underrated bats, developing these bats, and Julien just was so good in Double A this season for the entire season, right? This wasn't a college guy dominating high A and then was okay in double, and then the overall numbers look good. This guy was great in double all year long. And as we mentioned the write-up here, walks a ton, 19% walk rate, got on base at a 441 clip. I know Jack loves this guy.
I'm in love. I love this dude. He was sensational at Auburn. I think he was flirting with or broke Frank Thomas's freshman home run record at Auburn. Like, there was something about Julien being a Quebec native going to Auburn to play college baseball immediately piqued my interest. And the fact that he had a 441 OBP in a legitimate full season of Double A ball was utterly insane. This guy is going to walk. He's going to hit bombs. He's going to steal some bases. Question is, where's he going to play defensively? But that's a deal with when he gets up there, I think.
At least in the second base, I have heard, and I do know both of the second team and third team, Connor Norby with the Baltimore Orioles, who is a prospect I know you guys especially really, really like. And then Jonathan Aranda, we've seen him in the big leagues already, and he sometimes hits leadoff for the Rays. I mean, the Rays just they do Ray things, and sometimes when they like your matchup, they'll hit you leadoff or they'll hit you in the 7-hole. The game plan is only known by the people in the Rays, but these are both two guys that you guys are in love with. Jack, I'll go to you with Connor Norby because I know Aram could just talk about Jonathan Aranda till the podcast is over. So what about Connor Norby do you like so much?
Yeah, I mean, Norby, like, he unlocked this insane amount of power, man. I mean, 29 nukes, and he had a lot more than 3 doubles, which is currently in the write-up, so I'll go back and handle that. But he had something like 60 extra base hits this year. He was one of the best power guys in baseball, and that's a position where power is non-existent. So if Norby hits 30 homers in a minor league season, what does that mean? 25 in a major league season? If Norby's a 25 homer guy at second base, that's phenomenal, man.
Yeah.
I think Baltimore's in a great, great, great spot.
And Aram, give your once a week Jonathan Aranda pitch.
Yeah. I was saying, I was almost like itching a little bit. It's been a while since I've hyped up Aranda. This dude just hits. It's one of those perfect examples of a guy that has hit at every single stop. But the big thing that stood out to me with Aranda this year is added the power. I think he did a little bit of it last year, but has really added it this year. 20 home runs between triple and the big leagues. This is a guy that's always hit over 300. It was always a question of how much power. Now he's got the at least above average pop. He's going to be a good hitter for a very long time.
Shortstop is so freaking loaded. I mean, Gunnar Henderson, of course, is our first team guy with the Baltimore Orioles, but I'm sure, especially at looking through the rest of these guys, you really could have ranked them in any particular order, but I do agree with you guys. It had to be Gunnar as the first team, but I think we can lump all these guys into one because we're really talking about some of the best overall prospects in the sport. That starts with Gunnar Henderson, but on the second team, you got Jordan Lawler. Aram, what else do we have to say about Gunnar Henderson? We talked about him on the top 100. He is just, you know what? We all know he's good at baseball. Let's talk about his looks. Because, man, is that man handsome.
Hot.
Really nice hair.
Yeah, really nice hair. But he's a pretty good baseball player, right?
Yeah, I think he's not bad. Good year. Earned the first team spot. Number 2 overall prospect. Raked in the big leagues. And I think that's pretty good with really nice hair at the same time.
When Gunnar Henderson is Adley Rutschman's age, can you imagine how good he's going to be, Jeff?
Recycle it, man.
It's such a good joke. I think that's first coined by Foolish Baseball. I think he was really the first person to use that joke, and ever since then, I've been using it nonstop.
Did you see he deleted the Terran Vavra tweet?
Yes.
No.
And he put out a statement about tweeting it.
No, what did he say?
He said it went too far or something.
That's awesome. Where he drew the line.
That's where he drew the line.
Jordan Lawler with the Arizona Diamondbacks seems to be, and we kind of debated between him and Marcelo Meyer for the kind of between those two guys because they're always going to be intertwined because they were from the same draft. And even Marcelo, they were drafted like what? Jordan Lawler went 1 or 2 and Marcelo Meyer went 4 or something like that. I mean, these guys are going to be intertwined forever. But Marcelo Meyer makes their second team. Yeah,
so Meyer was 4 and Lawler was 6, right?
Or something like that, yeah.
Meyer was 4, Lawler 6.
Yeah, so Lawler, and we joked about this on the call-up, actually. I was like, there were 5 different guys in that draft class that were supposed to be number 1. And then it ended up being the 6th guy, which was Henry Davis. Like, that was one of those draft classes. And, Lawler and Meyer are always going to be stacked together. But what really stood out with Lawler this year is, we knew how athletic he could be. But to see the athleticism immediately translate was pretty amazing. I mean, we're talking about a guy that stole 39 bases on like 45 tries, but also was able to launch 17 home runs across 3 levels, walked a lot, and kept the strikeouts somewhat in check. The defense was amazing as well. And this guy was one of the most dynamic players in the minors. And, I think any other position, he's probably first teamer.
But I got to say, guys, if we're going on name value, you're right. But this guy with the Toronto Blue Jays, Addison Barger, again, another dude I've never heard of, but I think I got his name right.
You did.
His year compares just as much as these two guys. He must be a high riser in some rankings. He has to be. I mean, look at that year.
Yeah, I mean, Barger, you can talk about it, Jack, because like that was a late addition. As I scroll down to Barger's stats, like this was a late addition because I floated it to Jack and I was like, wait a second. You got to see this guy, Addison Barger, stats with the Blue Jays. Like, he's disgusting and might have to be a serious consideration here. And once Jack saw the stats, he's like, okay, I think we got to put this guy in. He just homered again in the Arizona Fall League yesterday, by the way. Barger's right on the cusp of being a top 100 prospect. What stood out to you the most, Jack, when you looked at Barger's stats, as I just pulled him up here?
Yeah, with Barger, I mean, it was 59 extra base hits and 91 RBIs from a shortstop. Like, insane. And this guy climbed to AAA, which is stupidly impressive. Christian was very high on Addison Barger too. He was like, oh, we gotta incorporate him somewhere. And shortstop is the most loaded position in minor league baseball, I think. Like, we moved arguably the best shortstop in minor league baseball to a DH spot, which we'll get to soon. But I mean, Barger like needed a spot here because not only do you have 59 extra base hits, but you also hit 308. Like, very, very, very impressive for a guy that, might be the replacement for what the Blue Jays wanted out of Jordan Groshans. And who knows what's going to happen at second base, right? Bichette looks great again. Kevin Biggio, no. So is it Espinal or is
Espinal
it
lit.
Barger?
Barger's got a big part of the future now, I think.
Moving on to third base. Third base, it's just like if you're a Twins fan, you have to be so upset. Spencer Steer and Christian Encarnacion Strand go over for Tyler Mahle. As a Twins fan, you got to be thinking, well, we went for it and we finished 77 and 84, and now Steer is in the bigs looking like he has some of the best plate discipline of any rookie, and Christian Encarnacion Strand makes the first team all third base list on this. Like, Aram, when you heard that trade go down, was it instant to you? Wow, that trade is going to work out so much better for the Reds. Or when Encarnacion Strand came over and when Steer came over, did their production maybe outperform what you might have thought it would?
Honestly, man, I was surprised that the Twins were willing to give up both of those guys. You know, I figure you look at Spencer Steer, maybe they felt like they were selling high on him. But I felt like when you're trading Christian Encarnacion Strand, who you look at what he was doing offensively, not only was he consistent, he was hitting home runs 480 plus feet. I think he had 12 home runs over 450 feet this year. Like, the power was very evident. The bat to ball skills were pretty evident. I was shocked that they would trade two of their best performers in the same deal. And they threw in more guys too. Steven Hadjar is not a bad prospect either, a pitching prospect that should be pretty solid. I was surprised they gave up that much. Even if Mahle was good for them and healthy, it was definitely a surprising move to see the Twins give up two of their best performing bats. And Encarnacion Strand was just comically good this year. 32 homers, 114 driven in, hit 304. Hey, that's insane.
Jack, two dudes who rake, second team and third team. Brett Beatty coming in with the New York Mets and Casey Schmidt with the San Francisco Giants. Did you only pick Brett Beatty because he's a little bit more handsome?
No, I think Casey Schmidt's actually a little bit more handsome.
He is handsome. He was a guest on the call up. Great guy, very handsome.
Yeah, wow. Schmidt's Aram's guy. Beatty is kind of everybody's guy now because of what he did in double. And it was like less of a cup of coffee in triple than it was in Major League Baseball before thumb surgery at the end of the year. He was so good in double. So they move him up to triple. He plays 6 games, and the Mets were like, you know what? Yeah, he's ready. Let's do it. No point in wasting time anymore. And that was what we were waiting for Brett Beatty, I think. Beatty's been a name that I think Mets fans have always said, like, okay, you know, we'll wait for Brett Beatty. They're done waiting now. And he kind of forced the Mets' hands with what he did in Binghamton this year.
And I got to say, Giants fans have to be very excited. We're talking about Casey Schmidt, third base prospect for them. You can definitely go check out that interview on the YouTube or on the Call Up podcast hosted by Aram. Vaughn Brown, an outfielder. I'm just going to go through all three of these guys. And then you got Esteury Ruiz with the Milwaukee Brewers. And then, of course, you got Corbin Carroll, who's just a freakazoid. And in his last game, he hit 106 miles an hour, just showcasing those exit velos as well as that 80 grade speed. But, and forgive me if I'm wrong, I assume it's Vaughn. It could just not be. It's Vaun.
Vaun. No, it's Vaun.
Vaun Brown. That's actually even cooler. This guy's year, when I'm looking at the statistics, there are few players in minor league baseball. Like, this guy's year competes with Endy Rodriguez. You're talking about 44 bags with 20 plus home runs, hitting 346 and slugging 623. Why didn't this guy win minor league hitter of the year?
It's funny. We were talking about this actually. And the only reason is, for whatever reason, he was 23 and then now 24 and started the season in low A, which, look, you can only play the competition that you face, right? It's not his fault, but you know, I just would have liked to have seen him be more challenged competition wise. That said, these numbers are impressive if he was playing in the Little League World Series. So, I mean, this was an insane year from him. Like you said, 346, 437, 625 with 44 bags is a joke. And I mean, it's a really good year for the underrated prospects in the Giant system, a really bad year for the higher regarded prospects like Marco Luciano, Luis Matos, and those types of guys. So weird year in the Giant system, but really exciting to see Vaughn Brown and Casey Schmidt do what they did this year.
Can I just say 5-year D2 guy, Vaughn Brown?
5-year D2 guy? Holy
unbelievable.
Crap, I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
5-year D2 guy. Good for him.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
If you're a college baseball player playing D2, don't ever think that it's over, because look at Vaughn Brown.
Vaughn.
Are you kidding me? Moving on, Esteury Ruiz, who got traded in that Josh Hader deal and stole 85 bases in the minor leagues. But the only thing that you could take away from him, he had 99 attempts. I mean, every single time the dude got on first base, he was trying to steal. But he didn't strike out that much, had plenty of doubles, didn't have a ton of power, but 16 home runs is still very, very solid. Hit 332. Esteury Ruiz, I mean, he didn't play all that well when he got called up to the bigs, but he still is really, really young. I don't know what to make of this guy, Jack.
Neither do we.
Yeah, I don't know what to make of him.
What do you want to make of him?
I don't know. I don't know what he's going to be like. Is he going to hit at the big league level? Those stats are gaudy and they look great, but is this going to be one of those guys who struggles to get on first base?
They look so good.
Yeah, they do.
Those stats look
we've seen guys
so
like this
good
in the minor leagues before. Then they don't hit in the major leagues. Like, do you guys think he's really going to hit in the major leagues?
I don't think he's Billy Hamilton.
Okay.
But I don't think that he's a transcendent hit 330 with a 447 OBP and swipe a billion bases. I don't think he's Ricky Henderson. I don't think he's Billy Hamilton. I think he's somewhere in between.
That's bullshit. Aram, you give me a better answer than what Jack just spewed out of his fucking
Dude,
mouth.
it's funny though. I will say this is one of the few guys where I'm like, I have no fucking clue because he was horrible before this year. Made some adjustments, looks way better. I think at the very least he's a fourth outfielder with crazy speed that can steal a ton of bags. But I do think he's going to be an above average big leaguer who is going to be one of the best base stealers. I think the bat's going to translate ultimately. I do.
Corbin Carroll, I'm kind of I don't like his year that much. He only had 24 bombs, barely stole 30 bags, barely hit 300. There's going to be a bust out of the top 100 and it feels like it's him. Like, I feel like you just ranked him high because he's fast. Is that true?
Yeah, it's actually just speed rankings. If you look at it, there's no other consideration. And he is an 80 grade runner. I will say, you saw that MLB video they put out of him running on the triple. Aside from the fact that his eyes looked really scary and weird, that was the most incredible base running I've ever seen. Like the way he cuts the corners, the way he runs. He's going to lead the league in triples next year. I'll bet my life on it. He had 8 this year, 24 homers. Again, you talk about the exit velos. He hit his 5th home run in the big leagues, right? Was it 4th or 5th in the big leagues yesterday? 4th. I mean, he's got way more power than people think. Hitter-friendly environment is worth noting. I don't think it matters. So I think he's a 20 to 25 home run threat annually.
Fine. I guess he's pretty good besides just being fast. The real reason that we're even having this entire podcast is just to talk about Ellie De La Cruz. Yes. You guys put him at the DH, kind of a coward move, but it's okay. Yeah. We'll go with it. Major coward move. Almost slugged 600, hit above 300, 28 bombs. And this is just the craziest part to me. How tall is he? What is he? 6'5", 6'6", 6'7", stealing 47 bags in 53 attempts. This guy is an alien. Like, Reds fans have to be just licking their chops reading this article at the moment with Encarnacion Strand on there and then Ellie De La Cruz all on the first team. Why were you guys cowards and why'd you put him at DH when he could have played shortstop? And then we would have had Ellie De La Cruz as the number 1 prospect. Again, coward.
Because then we would have had to put Gunnar second team, and then 100%. We had a conversation of what's the easiest way that we can like not get people to yell at us, and this was the easiest way. There's so many talented players; it was so hard to peg it all. But Ellie De La Cruz. So I put out an article recently, the best tools in the top 100, and Ellie De La Cruz had the best raw power. He had a home run 512 feet this year, by the way. He had top 3 speed and a top 5 arm. This guy stole 47 bags, like you mentioned, hit 28 home runs, had 60 extra base hits, more than 60 extra base hits, and he is a switch hitter. This is the alien of all aliens. If he can put it together consistency-wise, I mean, this guy could win MVPs.
I'm so excited. When do you think he's going to get the call-up? Like, when do you think he'll be ready, Jack? Because you called him the best player that's currently not on a big league roster. You said that with your mouth.
I said that with my mouth. Promise. I remember it with my brain. I think he's up at the end of next year.
Yeah, I agree.
He was too good across high. He was way too good in high A. He gets to double A and he hits a 500-foot nuke. He's going to start the year in double, maybe. Where do you think he starts next year, Aram?
I think he very well could start in triple. I think there's a good chance he starts in trip.
Yeah, okay, so end of next year. I'm saying August 1 of next year. Also, I was scrolling for so long to try and find this video before we got too far off of Corbin Carroll, and I got it. Can you make this like the main screen? This is him doing the dap up, and I just needed to get this out there. Hold on, we got the hugs.
Yeah, let's watch this.
Come on. Where's the daps?
You lost the daps already?
No, here we go. Okay. For all of our YouTube folk, I mean, it's one of the most. What's going on? That's not good. Is this the dap up video?
No. Prospect Arm.
This is so tough. I'm so underwhelmed right now.
You don't like a hug? What's wrong with a hug when you get called up?
No, the hugs are fine. There was just a really weird dap video when he got his call up.
Well, thanks for interrupting when I was about to talk about the difference between Carrie Carpenter and Ellie De La Cruz and how they match up, because Carrie Carpenter is the second team DH and they couldn't be more different. But at the same time, when you look at the stats, like Carrie Carpenter had an unreal year and then debuted for the Tigers and looked better than Riley Green, looked better than Spencer Torkelson. Like Carrie Carpenter, I think they found a guy in their lineup that they can rely on now for a long time, right?
One of the few guys that is actually hitting their system as of late. This was a horrible year for them top to bottom. I think there was a lot of frustration with a lot of their top prospects offensively. And Carrie Carpenter was one of the best hitters in the minor leagues. And I got specific texts from certain minor leaguers too that played against Carpenter, and just it's one simple sentence from one of the other best hitters in the minor leagues that just said to me, Carrie Carpenter rakes, period. That's it. Out of nowhere, I just get that text from a guy who was raking in his own respect. Just Carrie Carpenter rakes, period. And that's where, when guys really admire other players like that, usually, they're for real. And I think Carrie Carpenter does rake. That guy just barrels everything.
Okay, so moving on to the pitching side, I know ERA isn't everything, of course. But when you look at the pitchers you guys listed, and that's Brandon Pfaadt with the Arizona Diamondbacks, that's Andrew Painter with the Phillies, that is Gavin Stone with the Los Angeles Dodgers, that's Ricky Tiedemann with the Blue Jays, and Kyle Harrison with the Giants. All good picks. But when you look at Brandon Pfaadt's year, a 3.83 ERA, why did this guy make the top 5 overall pitchers in the minor leagues?
You have to adjust how you view ERA in the Pacific Coast League, and
that's
in
why I'm
the
asking.
Texas League.
Look at this. That was a layup. That was Dwayne Wade to LeBron. Dunk on me.
Yeah, that was sick.
Yeah,
that was more Chris Paul than Rubio. I'll give you that.
That was Chris Paul.
No, I mean, you have to factor in what kind of environment Brandon Pfaadt's throwing in, and I'm not sure how many people have been keeping tabs on the Arizona Diamondbacks, but Dre Jameson had a stretch of some incredible starts.
After having a 6 ERA.
He had a 6 ERA in Reno. I wouldn't worry about ERA in the Pacific Coast League. And if you have a good one, it means you're a really, really, really good pitcher. Gavin Stone had a great ERA in the Pacific Coast League through 6 starts. That's why Stone he's on our second team, right?
Yeah. No, he's on the first team.
No, first team.
Stone's on the first team. Yeah, Stone might be on the first team. But Pfaadt, 3.83 is still really impressive between Amarillo and Reno, which is both playing in zero gravity.
And look at the strikeouts to walks.
Yeah, the thing that jumps out with Pfaadt, 167 innings led minor league baseball in innings pitched. That matters. And 218 strikeouts it's the first 200 strikeout season in minor league baseball since 2011. Wow. So you got to factor that in. If you're on the hill all the time, you're striking out a bunch of guys, and you have a serviceable ERA playing in a place that's harder to play in than Coors Field, you had a really, really good year.
It's kind of like if German Marquez ever leaves Coors, right? Except
it's like if German Marquez was really good.
Yeah. No, it's like if German Marquez led the league in strikeouts, had the least amount of walks, but ended up having a 3.5 ERA. You'd call that one of the best years in the big leagues.
Yeah, we'd be like that guy.
German Marquez can't do that.
Yes.
Yeah. We'd be calling him top 20, top 10.
Can we just talk about Gavin Stone? Because we've talked about Kyle Harrison. We've talked about Ricky Tiedemann. We've talked about Andrew Painter, who is the minor league pitcher of the year. This guy kind of came out of nowhere and put
Yeah.
up a 1.48 ERA. If we're talking about really high strikeouts, really low walks, and everybody's talking about Bobby Miller in the Dodgers system as one of the best overall pitchers, but Gavin Stone, Dustin wrote an article about him, I think in June.
Yeah.
And then I know Michael Schwimmer, who is the head of Big League Advance. He said, if you're not focusing on Gavin Stone, what are you doing? And you guys have been focusing on Gavin Stone.
Big League Advantage.
Is it Big League Advantage?
They rebranded.
Wow. Shout out you, Michael Schwimmer. Big League Advantage.
Yep.
Figure it out, me. That's a Rubio moment. Back to being Chris Paul.
Yeah.
Total Rubio.
That's a turnover. You just
that's a Frank Ntilikina moment. Let's be frank.
That's a Frank Ntilikina. Fuck Frank Ntilikina. I don't even want to hear that name ever mentioned again on this podcast. Gavin Stone, talk to me about him.
Yeah, I mean, Dustin, it's so funny, dude. We just talked about Gavin Stone on the call-up because we were in that range of the top 100, and we were just talking about Dustin's write-up on him and how good it was. Gavin Stone is one of the best changeups you're going to find in the minor leagues. He threw it 38% of the time and held opponents to like a 400 OPS on that pitch. Struck out guys at like a 50% clip on that pitch. Like, it is ridiculous. Fastball has crazy life. 121 and 2/3 innings, a 1.48 ERA is a joke. I mean, the amount of strikeouts that this guy's been able to rack up. If it weren't for Andrew Painter, Gavin Stone's our minor league pitcher of the year.
Wow. Who else? So now we're through basically all the positions so far. Who have we not mentioned? Maybe he's on a third team, maybe just some guy that we didn't get to that you really, really want to talk about and highlight this guy's year.
Will Brennan.
There you go.
I love Will Brennan. I mean, dude, 129 games between double and triple, hit 314. The thing that jumped out, because Will Brennan has always done that, slugged 479, hit 40 doubles, and he had over 100 RBIs as a table setter. As like, Will Brennan is a leadoff guy or a two-hitter, and the fact that he was 20 for 23 in the stolen base department, never struck out, K rate under 12%, and had 40 doubles and 107 RBIs. This is one of the better minor league seasons that we've seen in some time.
Aram, who is your guy who you really wanted to talk about, and can it be Taj Bradley?
Taj Bradley is one of them. I really like what we saw from him, but my number one guy I want to talk about is Tink Hence. This guy's gross. He is athletic. He is going to be a pitching ninja favorite once he gets a little bit more exposure. For whatever reason, the Cardinals decided to keep Tink Hence in low A. They didn't stretch him out too much, so he only threw 52 1/3 innings. He's in the fall league right now to get more innings under his belt, but in those 52 1/3 innings, he punched out 81 and walked just 15, a .88 whip. Nobody hit the ball hard off of him. A 1.38 ERA is insane. He's an athletic specimen on the mound with the way he's able to repeat his mechanics. Fastball explodes out of his hand. Disgusting breaking ball. Already has a feel for the changeup. Tink Hence is not that tall at about 6'1", wiry, strong, but just so athletic. It's so fun to watch him go, and his arm speed's off the charts.
Mine would be Taj Bradley. I think he, once a couple of these guys graduate, I think he'll be up there with the likes of Andrew Painter. I saw him at the Futures game, and the life on his fastball is so electric. I mean, maybe he didn't strike out as many guys as you might like, but the walks are certainly good at 2.57 ERA, and he's just with the Rays. It's like these guys that I tend to trust, and especially when I see it firsthand, he was as electric as any pitcher that I've really seen. Like, I'm just so excited for this guy. And he was ranked really high in the top 100.
Yeah.
Like, Arm, you must love him.
He's another freak athlete on the bump. And 21 years old to reach AAA and do what he did, I mean, was really impressive. Fastball, we have a 70 grade on. So, definitely agree with you there. And it's funny that you like him because he's very similar to Shane Baz. We just talked about that on the call up. And fastball slider, if he gets the split finger going, that's the third pitch he needs right now. If that split finger is average, even just average, it's over. Like, he's going to be a frontline dude. So I'm excited to see how the Rays handle him next year, but this guy's really, really talented.
Like, it's mid-90s, like you wrote in the article, but it must have crazy vertical movement. I mean, it does. It flies through the zone. It almost looks like if he just threw the fastball, he could have a 4 ERA in the bigs. Like, it was a fastball. He gives the glove work to the catcher. He's like, fastball. He just hums it in there, and it's not like it's 100, but it probably looks 102 when you're in the box.
Absolutely does.
It just has that kind of noise.
To,
I could hear it from the second row at Dodger Stadium. It was crazy.
No, it's funny. Last thing I'll say, that was one of the few times where post game I texted, my buddy Griffin, and was like, hey, what was that fastball like? And he was like, first one, I was like, okay, you better not blink. It's one of those where you step in, you get the velo readings. So you're like, okay, it's 94 to 96, whatever. You step in there and he's like, it was not 94 to 96.
It is not.
And that's why the velo readings and the scouting reports only help you so much. And that was actually opened up a conversation where we ended up talking about how important the spin rates and vertical break is in their scouting reports, because the velo gave him shit, basically, was what he was saying. It didn't tell him anything.
And I totally agree with you. I think the fastball slider is good enough to be a really good pitcher in this league, even if he never develops another third pitch. We've seen 2-pitch guys do it like this. Like maybe just a see you later changeup or a how you doing splitter would definitely help. But I think this guy can make it on those 2 pitches because that combination is so elite.